Good. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. We're one short of a quorum, but we'll go ahead and start the March 24 financials. We'll go back to anything we need to vote on.
Pop off of the key highlights pages here. So this is for the 9 months ended March 31st, 2024. So, a lot of these narratives are similar to what we had shared in the prior briefing with regards to the financials. So revenues are unfavorable, $2.6 million relative to budget, budget being $60 million, and that shortfall is about $452,000 is on the federal funds, and they're lower than budgeted. They're lower than budget due to lower than budgeted use of the 5307 flex fund reimbursement, and that's offset by higher than anticipated ARPA funding, which we have used for the operator trainees' wages. Past several months, we have utilized about $1.68 million of ARPA funding to cover the operators and trainees. Also contributing to the unfavorable amount is about $756,000 in local funds. And as you recall, the fiscal 24 budget assumed that the GRTC fund balance would fund $1.5 million of the zero fare support. So 9 months of that is cumulative $1.272 million. As well as the remaining portion is unfavorable state funds, $1.62 million, which is more or less that's on the timing of the grant fund project. As you recall, we had a significant amount of planning initiatives that we had put a timeline on the spending of the consultancies with the reimbursed through DRTC grants, and these are basically our stop here to environmental extension. And then we are in process with microtransit demo as well as both the demo and the trip with that, but timing is just off a little. On the expense side, we are favorable to budget by 6 points, so it has corrections. Yes, we are offsetting those favorability with some favorable insurance premium expense. Previous briefing, we were favorable on there, but what we did is in the month of March, we booked the provision for the uninsured motorist, so not the insured or the SIR. So that drove higher instance claims. In addition, we had workers' comp policy premiums below unfavorable. So that's $145,000 primarily due to the booking of the 2024 self-insured claims. They still have unfavorable labor. If you're aware that the FTEs that we're operating currently in this month, we have 316 full-time operators, 27 part-time for 329. We have FTEs versus the budget of 23. So that's what the ARPA fund first. So you see favorable ARPA revenue, but now you see the unfavorable impact on the expense side. The majority of the unfavorable operations labor is offset by vacancies and variable administrative. So that's an offset. And going down further, we still have favorable, unfavorable one purchase transportation, which is next provider. It's about $615,000 unfavorable. It's that's what we've done. Obviously we booked the provision that was something that usually was wasted, and I don't anticipate any large adjustments that would we're not aware of any adverse conditions that was. With that said, here on the bottom part of this is the cash position we have. This is the end of the quarter, so our this will be our points. 740 million. The next day after this is CBTA. I'm good on questions. None. And then the other report there that we included in the package is the CBTA orders that we filed the quarter ending March 31st for CBTA we share. The takeaway here, this has got 1 month, of course, next quarter. The receipts, 2,655,000, still healthy interest income. Not any rate cuts by the Fed, probably not until September, so we're enjoying 500, 16 basis points in treasury sweeps. The LGIP is around 440 basis points. Slight in April, the slight unfavorable on the LGIP. The market retreated in April, it's growing back to May, so I think we're not really concerns. See here, we funded the fourth quarter, and after funding that, we have a position of $41.3 million in CPA funds. You look at it right now. With the, there's $40.5 million available for fiscal 25. So in essence, we funded our complete fiscal 25 and we received the house. No. Somehow the cash flow didn't show up. Yeah. The one I want to show you on the cash flow is that we are anticipating receipts when we received buses, that we're anticipating invoices coming in shortly for 14 vehicles, which will be a significant cash inflow and outflow. Anticipating all that, as well as receipts for a lot of reimbursements that we put into both the state and what? No, as of the yeah. Talking, paying attention. So this is the cash. So expectation, same June in the far column, we're expecting to start receiving significant amounts of inflows from the grant reimbursements on the ECHO and DRPT, as well as you can see down on the bottom, by about $7.5 million outflow for vehicles. We've had in April and May, we've had I think it was 4 to 5 cutaways already with around $600,000 a piece. So good position from a cash flow. Expected at the end of April about 4.5 million, going down to about 2.5 million, and then ending the fiscal year with about 2.4 million. So no concerns on that front either. No significant receivables from any of the municipalities. Everybody's basically paid their operating contributions. So we're all in pretty good shape. We're getting reimbursements for the Chesterfield 1A line extension, as well as we're about to put in our zero fare $2.5 million DRPT reimbursement for the fiscal year, as well as the trip and the demo programs for the microtransit. A lot going on.
Good stuff.
At least it's not busy.
No. Been on vacation for weeks. So. All right, so that's kind of the March in a nutshell, and if any questions, I'll field them.
I would use the words fairly standard, but standard what we're doing, but they look in reasonably great shape again. Numbers
within our tolerances that we're expecting. No surprises.
not in the red, so that's good.
I think having the
CDTA number in the $40 million range. That, I mean, what we use in a year, it's about right. We're budgeting like for next budget season, we budget right around that.
It's 20,
20
24, it was 24.
of the CDTA money. So, I mean, fine shape there.
Two for operations support, another 972,000 for capital. So basically about 25.5 million. Of the 30, yeah, but he's looking at the 41 million that's in the bank right now.
It's more than enough to cover it.
That we're into fiscal 26 funding, collections there.
Well, it helps us to stay fare-free.
Well, yeah, it also gives us comfort when you're, I'm guessing, right here, we're still overstaffed, I guess, just in training plus operators.
Well, I'm not 100% sure. I was trying to follow all these in here, but
300 versus 320 something.
So we increased the number of operators.
starting July 1st.
Okay.
So, yeah. So that's what my thought was. I was trying to follow all the positions, new full-time, part-time to full-time,
Yeah, but that's okay. That's just
part-time, and
we just moved the goal line.
yeah.
Yeah, we're still a great place on staffing numbers and the training and that kind of stuff.
Compared to the fact that we were at like, what, 250 forever and we couldn't go anywhere and we started to go in the wrong direction for a minute, like I didn't think we'd be able to even dream about getting back to normal service, let alone any expansion, and we're well beyond where I thought we could get. So, I mean,
How's that project going? The front lot?
It's not, we're looking to do it in the fall, right? Even the church
It's about
lot?
to go for bid now. So just wait.
That's good. That's not a ton of work, right?
No, it's demo, big piece of it was remediation, and there's a lot of expenses there. And then they'll do compressed gravel for.
That one is gone.
You know,
there was
Yes,
still time.
we are.
All right.
Well,
Also forgot my badge. She's like,
We went through March financials, but you can trust us. They're all right.
they're very good.
I'll trust you.
No,
Trust Dan.
no surprises.
All right. Fair enough.
Very standard.
I remember that, Mr. Mayor.
All right, what's next?
Approval of minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at the April minute?
I did, so moved. Gonna need you.
Second.
Reading.
All in
Making sure
favor?
we're good.
Aye.
All right. Well, now we're going to go over the budget.
So trying to be efficient here, because I know, so we had emailed it. So what we have is the proposed budget book, which is emailed to all members of the board to take a look at. And also the other item that we have is the PowerPoint, which I've kind of shared with the finance committee a couple months as it iterates. So not a lot has changed other than that we finalized the numbers. So I also have a copy of the proposed the budget operating and capital budget resolution that we're going to bring to the board on Tuesday. So that kind of just has the highlights of what's in here. That's kind of what I was going to talk about. And if there are any questions. So since we've last met on the budget, what we have experienced, through the baseline, we throw out an original estimate in the January, February timeline. And then major events that occur, we kind of crystallize the budget after that. We do open enrollment in February, so come March 1st, we know the actual medical enrollment, so we go back and push those expenses or the actual medical contract cost as well as what the folks' enrollments are. We also, at the end of January, we file the application for the DRPT fiscal grants, operating and capital grants for fiscal 25. And we receive what the awards are back in April. So now this has been updated for the exact awards for all the operating and capital grants in there. And any other knowledge that we learn along the way, like the Versa insurance renewals, we get more insight on there. So we went back and crystallized what those policy premiums are. So as well as we during the course, we had a certain section of the employees became unionized. So we went and updated for that. So this is about as current as we have on knowledge of information about fiscal 25. So on the PowerPoint side, basically the collective bargaining slides 2 didn't really change. Slide 3 is where the one change was for the facility maintenance. Our shelter cleaners unionized, so that now they're following a different wage structure, as well as they have a different pension and benefit structure. So that was updated. And we, on page 4, we crystallized the number of interns, where they're residing. And we talked about, the insurance, the participation in the Virginia Transit Liability Pool. We got the actual renewal numbers for the business general liability policy, which is going up a little bit. Slide 6, these are the key operating assumptions here for the revenue miles and revenue hours. As you can see, 16.82% increase in revenue miles, 12.6% on hours. So that's kind of driving the operator headcount as well as the microtransit headcount. Slide 7, this was just the renewal that we got in January. And then you get to slide 8 and 9 are basically the draft operating expenses. Highlights, on the functional side, salaries and operations is an increase around $5.8 million. The majority of that, $4.4 million, is salaries and wages. The other big piece that we talked about, as you saw from the March briefing, that purchase transportation is running unfavorable. Purchase transportation in the budget's going up about $1.5 million. That's to, based upon the experience updates that we're getting, as well as the next year's increase in their contract. On the maintenance line item, maintenance is going up about $255,000. The majority of that is salary increases. And then there's some reductions in the CNG costs, as well as some of the, diesel and gas parts. As you can see, the parts are running favorable. We have a bunch of new buses coming in, so hopefully with newer buses, less parts. So that would be true. You can see the benefits line. Benefits are up around $1.9 million. We have health insurance benefits going around $902,000. That's in part to the 7% increase in the cost of the benefits. Plus, we're having substantially more folks coming on board in the operators. And likewise, pension expense is going up $965,000. That's on volume as well as rate. As you're aware, the collective bargaining union contract went into effect on October 1, 2023. That had a healthy wage rate increase. So that obviously 15% of a larger number is going to give you higher pension expense. Insurance and safety. It's increasing about $349,000. Like I said, is that we got some good intel from the renewal. So business general liability policy is going up about $120,000. We also increased the provision for self-insured by $125,000, and our workers' comp policy is also going up $65,000. Not necessarily on claims; it's just volume. Payroll is increasing, so the rate is held the same. Planning and scheduling, about $225,000 increase. That's predominantly on wages, about $169,000 as well. An additional $100,000 for printing of timetables. That's new. So on the planning and scheduling, the grant funded, there's $5.85 million. Basically, the large projects that were approved or granted through GRTC's. Downtown transfer site, the NEPA, up to 0 to 30%, $3 million. North-South BRT environmental clearance and conceptual design, $1 million. Western BRT expansion, 1.4, and then 2 smaller technical assistance, one for paratransit operations analysis, $150,000, and $300,000 for fleet storage. Our communication and marketing is decreasing about $142,000. That's primarily advertising mix. We had $250,000 for advertising, the combination of the 1A and the microtransit. So this year, the grant funded is the $500,000 is the microtransits continuing in the trip grant portion. Technology increasing about $483,000, about $217,000 of that is on wages. The balance is on software licenses. As we looked at an ERP evolution, we need some more staffing of different type of skill sets in IT. That's addressed in this budget, as well as we contemplate in changing our footprint, incorporating the software licenses for the anticipated. Administrative increase $470,000 in salaries. It's bringing on the additional C-suite as other filling in the open director positions. And the operating taxes and licenses up $502,000. That's just the FICA taxes associated with all the headcount between operations and admin. So that's kind of the major drivers on the functional areas. The categories, obviously, you look at this increase, there's about $8.4 million are wages. Half of it is operations and maintenance, more than half, and the other piece is the benefits, the pension and FICA that we talked about. State of good repair maintenance is actually decreasing about $200,000, and that's kind of peeling back about $500,000 in parts. As you see, that we're running favorable. We got newer vehicles, tires and tubes. I believe that the contract we did by bidding is a little more favorable than the old one. Fuel prices and vehicles is actually down. We're anticipating lower prices. Offsetting that slightly is we have about incremental $180,000 in janitorial services. This new group does a lot more than the prior group, so we're paying a little more to get a little more cleanliness. It's also in this state of good repair and maintenance increase, about $155,000 is related to the CNG operations and maintenance from Trillium. As we anticipate more service, obviously that's going to have more demand on CNG. More volume, less rate. But the rate for the O&M is pegged based upon the volume. Fuels and lubricants decreased about $330,000. Once again, is pricing. Casualty is the increase in premiums, and the other ones are pretty small. So those are kind of the major drivers between the expenses from the categories. Flipping over to page 10 on the revenue side, in here, as part of the grant awards that we learned in April, is that we got the incremental $3.56 million of DRPT zero fare. So in the 25 budget, $4.56 million of zero fare coverage is coming from DRPT. VCU is in at $1.2 million, and the remaining $1.04 million is matching fare countries from the GRTC reserve. Hence, the $2.6 to $3 million that we anticipate, that's coming from fiscal 24 surplus.
VCU made a commitment already?
Yes.
Do we have anybody else out there that wants to do anything yet?
We are trying, we have not received, but not for lack of trying. We're reaching out and going back because they said, quite a few of them said that it was during their budget season when we reached out. They were possibly submitted in their budget or not heard back, so.
Might be worth exploring like a group like the Chamber or another organization that has a bigger kind of capacity to bring together people at their, in their setting, and then we go to them.
We had talked about that.
That would, for me, be a very good way to focus on our transit-oriented future, because we just came back from Atlanta and we all had to take the MARTA from the airport to the hotel. And I think, to me, we just experienced that kind of access in transit, and we should be thinking about how that should be part of our plan. And whether it's this year or a commitment for the future, that's the conversation we have.
So I was gonna say, we actually did that. Adrian reached out to Martha at Plan RVA. That was one of her suggestions or recommendations. And we actually spoke with Christina, her last name, talked about setting something up like that. I don't know if you have any more details since then.
Well, we decided to hold off a little bit since we knew we were getting the BCU. So we've been approaching it as we're okay for this year. We want to work towards relationships for fiscal year. But yeah, they were definitely an amazing idea, as well as we already talked to a lot of other health systems, education, so we want to just have even just zero fare support campaign for this year to help promote it for partnerships this year. Just try to get the excitement out there.
I just don't want to lose the VCU money because nobody else is doing it. So
Yeah.
good job getting that guarantee. And they went from 1 to 1.2, right?
No, they were 1.3.
Oh, they were 1.3. They went down. Well, that's all right. You hold them within 100,000. That's still, I mean, right now we'll take that. But we need to get somebody else to make it up.
We reached out to Amazon, and all of the schools, just are right point.
It's all been very positive conversations, so.
Well, I would think Brightpoint on 1 in Chester would be fantastic for that because there's a lot of opportunity for people to get there. And they could push their certificate programs that have employers that'll pay them to run the program if they can get graduates that'll come to work for people. So I would think that it could be a win-win.
Do we have a goal number ask? Like, are we asking for like 5 million total so they can see kind of where they fit into it? Because just the 1.2 from BCCU is different than an ask from a corporation. I'm just curious, kind of thinking through what we need to see as a delta, knowing what we're going to see changing in the future.
I mean,
Funding.
we need to do more than that, but you need the 1.04 that are coming out of the reserves needs to be the first goal. If we can get past that goal, then.
Well, and then we're not sure that the RPT will continue their funding levels. Definitely still need a whole lot more than that to make
When I've
it
been talking
6.
to them, I've been saying about 3 million. That like it should be kind of a combined effort and all of it should just be on. But that seems more.
Well, that's probably a good target.
Yep.
Yeah.
3 million.
I'm also curious, Robbins Foundation, I know it's education focused, but this is access education. Could be an interesting avenue to think about getting partners that have their own sources of support to say it aligns with what the goals are. You can support that from a bigger capacity too. Venture Richmond also probably needs event buses to get to the James River for their events so they can avoid parking. And that could be a future avenue of going to their funders and support for that too. Just thinking through to support what their operations are, getting a connection on the weekends would be, I think, beneficial for all involved. Could be some money to be thrown at that too. Just thinking out loud.
You said the Robbins?
Robbins Foundation.
Who's making the ask?
Mainly Adrian. I've reached out to a couple people, like I had someone from the chamber connect me with Artria, their person, so I'm in conversation with her. Adrian's been handling a lot of that.
So you guys are creating a list, I guess, or will, and just go at it.
Yes, yes.
I do think the chamber will get there, but I think the support from like those who are benefiting right now is going to be very helpful to tell that story. One thing for us to tell, but hear kind of those testimonials is great.
ECU was, I feel like something happened. Didn't something happen? I had to talk to them or something. Were they not going to fund us or something at one point?
At one point.
At one point, they
Yeah.
were talking about that, wasn't it a year and a
Okay.
half, 2 years ago? We were worried about losing that funding last year.
Yeah, 'cause
They
we
the
were-
only one contributing.
We were on the inner city visit. I feel like
Yes.
we was talking.
Yes.
Did you receive their signature?
Yes.
So is it year to year?
ECU, that's what they're funding is a year, right? At a time?
It was a 6-year contract, and this was the actual
Last
last
year.
year for
Oh.
FY25. So we'll have to set.
Yeah.
We have quarterly calls with them and they consistently ask who else. What other partners we have. But for this year, we're good. So,
So right in the middle of that page 10, so this also has the DRPT operating contribution, 20.27 million. It's pretty much near the top. It's a little bit less than what we put is 30%. So it's right up there. It's about $500,000 to what we had originally put in the original, but so it's up. It's an increase over fiscal 24. As we mentioned before, CVTA contemplating 24.52 million in operating contribution, 972,000. And we're probably, it's about $5 million that goes into the reserve off of that. And is
as we showed before, we have that amount already in the CPTA dedicated accounts. Slide 11, the operating contributions for the 3 municipalities, 3.15% CPIU index. That priorities over, and so slide 16. We're contemplating in here about $605,000 in sponsorship revenue. That would be advertising on buses, sponsorship, name partner programs. And then we're contemplating use of FTA 5307 Flex for PM about $3.6 million, and for ADA cost of contracting about $1.4 million. And any residuals, surpluses will go to fund the GRTC operations reserve funded to 25%. Slide 17, as I was mentioning in here, this is a summary of all the operating, the grant reimbursement expenses for operating expenses, non-capital pieces that are included in the budget. So you can see this is a healthy amount of funding in here for the various projects that we have. Always, underwriting of expense software and supplies. We have the demo assistance or microtransit. That's a continuation of last year's. We have the demo assistance microtransit new zone for fiscal 25 application that was awarded. We have the trip microtransit grant, which is year 2 of the 24 award. And we have the trip zero fare that includes $5.6 million. That's all reimbursement or actual expenses. And then we have what we talked before, the newer ones, the Western BRT. We have a continuation of the demo. Route 1 is in the application for $250,000. And we have some technical assistance for paratransit operations analysis, fleet storage, and the downtown transfer site, as well as the north south as well. We also got robust funding of about a little over $200,000 for to fund the interns that are included in the budget. So all in all, on page 18, the total combined baseline and grant funded budgets is $90.3 million. It's up from the $8.9 million, and what is you see is a significant increase in the basically the grant funded reimbursements driven by the awards that were on the previous page. Baseline budget is actually a slight reduction. 74.2 million down to 73.3. It's just that there's more funding coming in, so it shifted from the baseline column to the grant funded column. And then on the screen, I don't know if we want to go, if there's any questions, we email out the budget book to the entirety of the board. And that budget book has both in the front end, it has just a quick. So it has a an introductory statement that was penned by Gerald, and then it goes through and it covers the various acronyms, explain the unique language we use here, and then goes into explaining the various revenue categories, then the expense categories, and then it goes through functional area by functional area that shows the detail what makes up the operating expenses with narratives on key items that changed, has what the authorized proposed authorized headcount would be by the number, by the types, as well as the position names. And that's for each.
That's going to be 366 total, up from 313 total. Is that right?
For the FTEs of the operators, yes.
If you count the part-times as a half, then it's 366, equivalent full-time. But the 30 of those were because we had microtransit operators that didn't exist in the previous budget year. Well, I mean, that makes a big difference in the budget and explains some of the reason why there's, what is there, 12, 13%, 14% increase in the overall budget,
Yeah,
so.
It's a 16% increase in revenue miles and hours are up too, so that's driving that. That's inclusive of the micro revenue miles and hours as well. And the back of the budget book, starting on page 34, has a listing of all the capital grant project. Now, these are all the ones that were awarded by DRPT, so the fundings, and you can see that on page 39 is the summary table. $46.1 million, of which $13.5 million is federal funded, $30.7 million is state, CBTA is $795, and then local contributions $1,049,000. So all the detail that you need to know about the different types of projects. And on the budget resolution that we prepared for Tuesday's meeting, the key takeaways on the first page is that second paragraph is that the fiscal 25 proposed operational budget prepared with the assumption that GRTC will continue to be fare free through fiscal 25. Then it goes through the key revenue assumptions, which we went through and talked about the revenue miles and staffing, and the key revenue components, and then the key expense assumptions, and then put the summary table for the fiscal 25 proposed capital plan. And the ask is for the board to approve both that GRTC remain fare free through 25 and then adopt the 25 operational budget and capital plan as presented. There's any questions? That's the end of my nickel.
Got it here. I mean, you sent it to us in advance, so it's, so we will approve that budget when?
Tuesday.
That's the fiscal year 25 budget.
Yes.
Starts
July 1.
24. I don't have any questions.
This is not about the budget directly itself, more in regards to like comparing ourselves to other localities, other transit systems. For our ridership, how do we compare to like other cities our size in regards to investment in transit as well as ridership? Just thinking about the value we're getting from what we're putting into the budget in regards to its impact. Like, just curious if there's anything we can see, because these numbers look good for what we have, but just want to understand like how it looks. Are we behind? Are we ahead? And I know ridership's good, and I think fare free helps that. And I just want to see kind of, is there a way to kind of speak to not just the budget by itself and operations and how we're keeping things going, but more importantly, like how do we look in terms of our peers? Does that make sense of a question?
I guess we can look at that. How to do comparison?
The MDD does a good comparison too. I mean, basically it's like your operating cost ratio compared to your performance. We have some of them we've already looked at, but I don't think we've done your analysis of that exact measure.
I said that for GRTC, this is a big budget. And I think that's something that I want to make sure that while it is a big budget, what we're investing in is impacting a lot of people. And so while we might think about it as, oh my gosh, $71 million, well, yeah, but it could be. And that's the thing I feel like we should be kind of also considering is not just where this is today, but we are dependent on some outside funding sources that aren't necessarily promised for the future. And if we are going to maintain and sustain the system as a region and as a state, that we make that happen.
I think it's important to compare to others, but I think your latter point is actually more important, the sustainability of it.
Yeah. My question is,
Yeah.
because next year, like, we look good for 25. And I know we haven't even passed 25 yet, but how much of that is sustainable to continue to carry us and stay on the zero fare path?
We have we have a 10-year forecast model, which at the next finance committee meeting, we can go through that.
You looked at it.
Go through the assumptions. Yeah, we looked at it last year. So
It's probably worth
Months.
probably worth reviewing after we get done passing this, because this will probably shape that a little bit. And
I recall we were pretty stable till 28.
yeah, that's what my remembrance was. And, where we're going to finish this year is not bad. So
Not far
it's a
off.
little bit more
That's why it's important.
into the funds. I mean, we're using reserve funds in here, but we're gonna put more into the reserve fund than we're planning to use out of the reserve fund, so we're still gonna grow the reserve fund.
Like in fiscal '24, the assumption was to use $1.5 million
I think that's
out
good.
of reserve. But we haven't pulled anything out and we're 2.6 favorable. So we really didn't take out of the reserve, we put in.
I'm just saying that this shows we're taking money out of the reserve fund to fund the budget, but we're technically still putting more in right now than we're taking out, so.
We also talked about, instead of being that, was the interest from CBTA always being.
So that probably, that'll change throughout time.
Yeah.
Over a longer period of time, it will probably be more consistent because you'll have your highs and your lows, but there's gonna be a year or two that don't look good before, oh,
Bucky's, that's in our region, right? That counts towards our contributions
Yeah.
for,
that's
It's
in.
in New Kent.
oh, so it's not.
It is,
No,
well, it's playing on the edge, so it's CBTA.
I was making sure that still contributes to CBTA.
It is, it's
That'll
CBTA, yeah.
Hey, I'm just thinking big, I'm just thinking big.
As also, as we talk about the interest on the CPA fund, as we build up, as we say already that, we had the $41 million in there, which we already had 25%. If the finance committee would like, right now, we're pretty conservative in the investments. It's LGIP and it's treasury sweeps. Now, the treasury sweeps at, 517 basis points, very conservative. But if we wanted to, if there was a portion of that, let's say of the 41 million, $5 million that we didn't need in 12 months, we could talk about having longer duration investments that might have a little bit higher yield than risk-free.
Which even 20 million will spit off a pretty good number.
And if we're good until 28 and our reserves look like they're gonna hold out, it doesn't make sense to
Get a couple
not
million
invest
dollars.
that much.
I will add to that, the 41 million that you acknowledged, that first year CBTA actually was not in that 10-year model. Correct, so I don't think 28 actually goes in the 10-year model. So we're actually, it looks sustainable, even with.
We got a few more years from 20.
Knowing that, I remember that, knowing that I would say that this group, once we get through this, we should look at longer term and 12-month investments on that because the money's
Absolutely.
there. And what are you returning now, you think, percentage-wise? If you could throw a dart on LGIP stuff, what's the percentage?
LGIP's like 400, and we're in LGIP EM, it's like about 434, I think.
You return if you went deeper into a 12-month lock and more aggressive return?
Probably good with balanced index or something. As interest rates are cut, whose crystal ball, the fixed bond market should go up, which is next step up. So those yields should go up.
And we can take a look at what CBTA is investing their funds in, because but I know when we did our presentation to them, that was one of the things they talked about. Look at what they're investing in. So,
From Region Tourism is looking at this too. Their TID money is starting to accumulate to millions of dollars a year, $10 million in that account from zero. This year it's zero, and 10 million. They're talking about the same exact thing, putting that in maybe a long-term strategy.
We also started the bond conversation.
Chesterfield's treasury department, our treasurer is doing CBTA's in
Yes.
Chesterfield, so.
they acknowledged that and they said they're doing a great job, so.
Mr. Carroll's.
I'm sure he put that out there. I'm sure he didn't waste the opportunity to share that, but, if you're looking for what's going on, I can get that from the treasurer, because I know she's doing both, so. But yeah, if you have it and you don't need it for the 12 months, you might as well maximize what you get back, because that's all going towards bigger picture. Really two sides of it, right? Jurisdictions, how much jurisdictions are gonna have to put in how long we're gonna be able to stay on fare free.
It's a consistent enough funding source, so you're going to roll income. You can walk away 12
Both
months.
sides of that is true,
It
right?
is true. Remind me, what was our actual fare collection? Like, how much was it?
About $8 million.
then
And how much
does
did it cost
to
you?
get it?
What,
So
one
that
quarter?
was about, so we're saying the net's about 6.8 million, so roughly about 1.2, and that's a mixture of staff, but primarily that was like hardware and software.
12%.
Yeah.
It was about, yes, yeah, it usually was around 15%, but towards the end, I would say it was.
The reason why I asked that too is like people think that's how we balanced our budget.
It's nothing.
And it's not, it's like 10%, right? Of this budget, it's 10%. For me, that's a challenge I get into. People that are like, fare free is XYZ, the email I shared with you. And being like, that's not quite how it works. Not really indicative of that, so.
And we don't have all that violence on our buses either.
Things will happen.
Right. It's public transit.
Hey, I ride it at least a couple times every week, so.
Good.
Took it yesterday to do the Better Housing Coalition's Young Professional Bike Tour of Churchill. And so I took my bike to the Pulse to Government Center, took the Lee Bridge across, terrifying by the
I
way.
was gonna say, yeah.
I went to this awesome ride along.
Awesome.
I easily put the bike on the front because I made the video of it, but also because I knew how to do it. And then I got off the bus and I forgot to put it back up. And the driver honked at me to put it back up. And I was like, thank you, sorry, my fault. Pull you up. It was great.
Be on your toes.
Good meeting. Good work.
Do we need to vote on
You-
that?
We have a motion,
Some type of-
resolution.
Yeah, I so move for a recommendation for adoption.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any other business that anybody wants to bring up? All right, thank you.